Hey guys, it's Bailey and welcome back to the channel. This video is going to be a what's new from Mally review and demo. I have a couple of products, oh, well, less now that I dropped that, but a couple of products here. They kind of all created a full face of makeup. I'm wearing all of them today, and so I thought, you know, save time, give you as much information as possible. Let's just put them all in one video because some of them are entirely new to the Mally collection, some of them are newly reformulated, and some of them are just new to me. So in some way, they're all new. It's a what's new from Mally review. Let's go ahead and dive in. The thing that started it all for me with these, I got these from Octoly, by the way, and the reason I did is I first spotted the newly reformulated Evercolor shadow sticks. Actually, they're not called that anymore. They are just Shadow Stick Extra. And if you'll remember, back when I did my top 5 eyeshadow stick video, it was just when these were coming out and being newly reformulated, and so I had the original formula and didn't know a thing about what she was doing with these, what the shade range was going to be like, how she was changing up whether it was a texture or total overhaul, had no idea. So I saw these on Octoly. If you're unfamiliar with what that is, I will link that down below. Basically, it's just a place where you can connect with brands to get samples. If it's something you're interested in, you can actually go through kind of a store of sorts and apply to receive these products. So saw these, thought it would be a great opportunity to talk about those differences, and then in the process also spotted the new Ultimate Performance See the Light Concealer and the 4K Ultra HD Fantasy Foundation. And I haven't tried a concealer from Mally, I don't think, but I had tried a foundation. It was the liquid, I forget what it's called. It did not work for me, so I thought I'd give a separate foundation from the line a try, and that's what I'm gonna be talking about. So even though this is what started it all, I'm gonna go ahead and start with a concealer just because you'll see in the demo here, it's the first thing I apply. So this is the Ultimate Performance See the Light Concealer. Mine is in the shade Light. There are 4 total shades in the range, fair, light, medium, and tan. I believe that's how these are coded, and so I'm kind of in the middle-ish, right next to medium. I would say it's a good fit for me as far as concealers or like under eye concealers go, because it is a hint lighter than the skin around the rest of my face, so it gives me a good brightening effect. But if you're looking to have this concealer conceal like blemishes around your face, you are going to want to kind of adjust for that. So just keep that in mind as you might be ordering this for yourself. It retails for $24, and I think the only place it's available right now, because it's new, is the Mally website, but I will go ahead and link to other places it may be available in the description bar below. And basically, this is one heavy-duty concealer. Think like IT Cosmetics Bye Bye Under Eye, very similar texture, just about as thick. Like it is very, I do think you need to work with it a little bit in your hands, warm it up on your fingers or wherever you need to do that before applying. That way it'll really sink into your skin. Because the texture is so thick, it's going to take a little bit more working with. But unlike the IT Cosmetics Bye Bye Under Eye, this does not leave a dewy finish on the skin. It will actually dry down somewhat, and I still feel that I need to powder it, which is where I'm talking about the powder foundation will come in handy. But even if I'm wearing another kind of foundation, I still feel like I need to powder it, but I find it's less prone to creasing like the IT Cosmetics Bye Bye Under Eye is. And I love that. That was my holy grail for forever. I found it very moisturizing when I was in a drier climate like I was in Chicago. Now I just really don't need it for my under eye area, but I still love the coverage, but it just, because it maintained that dewy texture, sunk into fine lines. This does not do that, but you get the same kind of coverage and the same, because of the consistency, it almost affects the texture, or at least the appearance of the texture of your skin in your under eye area. Unlike a lot of very lightweight concealers, which will help conceal and brighten, this seems to almost affect the texture. So that maybe is another component to consider when you're thinking, why would I want a thicker concealer that could be more prone to cakiness as opposed to something more lightweight? This seems to affect the texture of the skin in my under eye area, unlike other lightweight concealers. Overall, really like it and would recommend it so long as you're looking for a really heavy duty coverage concealer. And I think the only thing that you should be aware of when purchasing is kind of going back to what I said at the beginning of all this when you're selecting your shade, because it is so heavy duty that you're going to want 2 different shades depending on if you're concealing, or if you're wanting to brighten up your under eye area, you're going to want a different shade than if you're trying to cover blemishes around your face, because this packs so much coverage that you're going to notice a difference. If you have, you know, blemishes on your cheeks, it's going to be noticeably lighter if you're using the same color as you would in your under eye, which is going to be naturally a little bit lighter if you're looking to not only conceal but lighten and brighten that area up as well, if that makes sense. Something to consider if you're looking into this, but overall, I really like it. Onto the foundation. This is the 4K Ultra HD Fantasy Foundation. Mine is in the shade Light, and there are 5 shades within this range: fair, light, medium, tan, and rich. So a little bit of a broader shade range here. It's a powder foundation though, so it's a little bit more forgiving in terms of whether or not you have the right shade or not. It will kind of, you know, match your shade depending on whether you're lighter, have a different undertone slightly, and yet it still manages to be relatively buildable and full coverage, which I will show you and talk about more later. But this guy retails, the only place I've been able to find it is QVC right now, and so it does come with a brush. I don't have the brush that it comes with. Instead, I have been using the IT Cosmetics. This is like the powder and my favorite buffing foundation brush from IT Cosmetics. I believe it's the powder and bronzer, Heavenly Luxe powder and bronzer brush. You know the one if you watch me for a while. It's my favorite. So I just use that because I find it does a really great job at buffing products out, powder specifically, but I also love it for liquid. But for powder, it's a good because it helps get really nice full coverage, but still natural looking coverage, like not cakey coverage from a powder product. So that's what I've been using to apply this. And I was a little skeptical when I first got this guy because despite having combo skin and knowing that powder foundations can really help me out if it, you know, when it comes to oil control, especially in the summer, they can sometimes be finicky on my skin, you know, not really flattering the dry patches on my skin and looking cakey on the combo parts of my skin. I have a weird relationship with powder foundation. So my holy grail has been the IT Cosmetics Celebration Foundation, the regular one, not the illumination one, because the illumination just doesn't quite flatter my combo skin as well as the original. But the original, I just couldn't get over how flawless the coverage was, how buildable but natural looking it stayed, and how it helped control my oil without getting, you know, cakey and inconsistent and breaking apart throughout the day. That being said, this is giving that guy a run for its money. I was a little nervous to try it knowing how finicky my skin has been with powder foundations, but have been really impressed with the buildable coverage that it offers, like I mentioned earlier, without looking a little too powdery and cakey. By comparison, it is a drier formula than the IT Cosmetics, so I do notice it getting a little bit powdery if I layer it up too much, namely on my forehead. For some reason, that's where I tend to overdo it with the product. On my forehead, maybe because it's a broad space, I'm using that broad brush, but anywho, forehead, sometimes along the cheeks it'll get a little too heavy, and so when that's the case, I either just continue to buff it out, or I will go in with a setting spray. This is the Laura Geller Spackle Mist, and I will just go in either before I start applying it or as I'm buffing and blending everything in, and that just kind of helps take that powdery finish away, helps buff and blend any buildup that's been going on, buff it out for a really nice natural finish, removes that powdery finish, and in addition, because it's that setting spray, helps it last all day. And that's probably the most impressive part of this foundation is the before and after. It seriously didn't change from when I put it on 8 a.m. to when I took the final shot at 7 p.m. Like, that is a full day's worth of wear, and I feel like you can't even tell. I'm wearing all the products that I'm talking about on both eyes and face, the foundation and the concealer in that before and after, so something is clearly working. I didn't develop any excess oil. I think there was a little bit of wear around my chin area, but that is also because, like, as I'm sitting at my desk throughout the day, I tend to touch my chin, and so that's where my foundation wears off first. So you can see the breakouts around there, also because I touch my chin. That's where I saw the most wear. I think if I didn't have that bad habit, it would have lasted longer, but for that kind of wear after that kind of day and this kind of heat in Texas, I was pretty impressed with the lasting power of this foundation. So if you're looking for a powder foundation and for whatever reason, whether you have combo or oily skin, you just want that drier texture, definitely would recommend looking into this guy because it, like I said, giving the IT Cosmetics a run for its money. And last, the products that started this whole video are the new Shadow Stick Extras. So you might remember the Evercolor Shadow Sticks were in white packaging. These are in what looks like beautiful new kind of silvery chrome packaging. Similar shape though. One thing that I absolutely loved about those shadow sticks is how narrow they were. The shape is still the same. These are great, I find, because they are nice and narrow. They're not pointed or anything, but just even this more narrow tip gives you the ability to be more precise as you're applying color on the lower lash line, on the inner corner. A lot of chubbier shadow sticks just don't give you that ability. Even with that tapered tip, it gets worn away. So because it's such a small smaller pencil, you don't have to worry about sharpening it or maintaining that shape to maintain the precision, the ability to be precise when applying this. The price is still the same here. The originals retail for $25. These also retail for $25, but it looks like the shade range might be a little bit more narrow. Currently, these new guys are only available on Ulta. I looked on the Mally website and the old formula is still available there, which is on sale if you're looking to go grab it. But so far, from what I can tell, this is just a more narrow shade range. Of the 10 new reformulated shades available, I have Moonlight, which is this light, frosty, champagne shade. I would say it's not quite as yellow as I would think a traditional champagne shade would be, so maybe even more of a frosty cream. Yeah, that's probably a more accurate description. So frosty cream is Moonlight, and then Timeless Taupe is a matte taupe shade, a matte kind of purpley, mauve-y taupe shade, which I don't remember there being any matte shades in the original permanent collection. I purchased 2 matte shades that I think were limited edition from QVC at one point, but I don't think there were any permanent matte shades. So correct me if I'm wrong, but this, I was kind of surprised to see a matte shade in the permanent collection. Then there is Brownstone. This is the only shadow I am wearing on my eyes right now. This is just a really pretty frosty bronze. And then there is Mahogany, which is a beautiful, deep, rich brown. So overall, I have to say, formula-wise, the lasting power is definitely there. One of the things I loved about the original formula is its ability to last crease-free, budge-free, transfer-free all day, throughout the day, with or without a primer. Same goes for this on my eyes. The other thing is the creaminess. These are very, very easy to apply and blend. It's kind of a one and done. You apply, you can blend out with your finger, no tools needed. It maintains that same great quality as well. But I'm not sure if it's that these are kind of subdued shades of the collection, or overall I can say they're lacking the kind of intense sparkle or metallic finish that the original collection had, and maybe that's because people were complaining about it, like it wasn't right for the Mally audience. They found that they didn't wear or didn't want to wear shimmer as much, which is why these are more subdued. But maybe that's why I think these just aren't quite as bold and poppin', for lack of a better description. They just seem a little bit more subdued than the shadows that I originally had. And unfortunately, I had the 5 set from that Ulta used to have of the Evercolor shadows, and when I did a purge a few weeks ago, I said they're reformulating these. My originals are so old, I just need to let go because I have a ridiculous amount of makeup, and so I don't have them to compare here today, unfortunately. But just going off of memory and how much I love those shades, I would say the major difference is just the intensity of the finish. The pigmentation's still there, obviously, but maybe because of the difference in metal finish, or maybe even sparkle. Some of those shades were very sparkly. Maybe because of that difference, these just seem overall less intense to me. Basically what I'm trying to say is the application and lasting power aspect of the original formula is still the same with these, but there's just something with the pigment, and I'm not sure if it's the shades that I have versus the shades that I used to have. Something about the pigmentation and the color payoff here isn't the same for me, and so I'd like to try some of the other like more colorful shades. There was a plum in the original set that I had that I would love to try and see if that's still the same. Maybe that's my basis for comparison, because there was just something about how rich those shades were originally that I'm not getting here. Even with the deeper shades like Mahogany, it's just kind of like a dusty mahogany and not a really rich mahogany, which is what I felt like I could get from the original set of shades. So jury's still out there. I think if you like more subdued eyeshadows and you're looking for a really nice cream stick eyeshadow and you don't want the crazy sparkle shimmer metal finish, this is a great option for you. But if you love the original formula and you love the colors and the rich color payoff of the original formula, just make sure you go into a store. I have seen these in Ulta, and so go into an Ulta, give them a swatch on the back of your hand to make sure you're still in love with the shades. Otherwise, do know that the Mally website is still selling the original formula and they are on sale at this point, so stock up if you want them. So mixed feelings on these products in general, but still happy I got to try these, as well as some other products from the line. I feel like I had been lacking in experience from some of Mally's other products, so happy I got to try those and share my thoughts. I hope you guys found it was just as helpful. Would love to hear what you think of them in the comments below. But besides that, thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye guys!